Self-publishing is changing. No more gatekeepers, no more barriers, no one standing between you and your readers. Do you want to make a living from your writing? Join indie bestseller Mark Dawson and James Blatch as they shine a light on the secrets of self-publishing success. This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Yes, hello, it is the Self-Publishing Show with me, James Blatch.
And me, Mark Dawson.
We're recording this at the world's largest indie publishing event here in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada.
We are, yeah, 20 books. So it's the last ever 20 books conference. I think from next year, well, we've been coming for a while actually. This is my third or fourth. One at Sam's Town, and then this is the third here, so it's my fourth.
Yeah, and it might be my fifth.
Could be yes, it's your fifth, isn't it? Because I did that called in. Remember when you were on stage and I did a kind of a down the line from my Salisbury office?
That's right. Yeah, we did a live, which actually worked on stage.
It did. It was very strange and fun. But yeah, no, it is the biggest conference in the world, and so an announcement on Thursday. It's going to be rebranded next year with a friend of ours, Joe Solari, is taking over. So we can't say anything about it because we just don't know. He's keeping it.
Showy McShowface.
Showy McShowface is going to be called apparently. So. Looking forward to that, but yeah, it's been good. James got in on Saturday and had a weekend with young Tom, very romantic weekend. I got in last night, a couple of cocktails. Feel ready to go today. We've got a big announcement we're making today.
Yeah, well, Tom and I went and did some space geeky stuff. We went down. I mean, Vegas is horrible. I just put it out there.
That's a code word.
You need to get out of Vegas as soon as you get here. And we went down to look at a meteor crater, 50,000-year-old meteor crater, which was very impressive. See the picture here. And we looked through a 24-inch refractor telescope at Saturn, which was incredible.
Oh my God! Get off it.
What were you doing?
I was with my family.
Oh yeah, well you're wasting your life. Okay, well look, we can perhaps do a little spin around. This is like the atrium in between sessions.
Should say Stuart Bache is on
Stuart Bache is on camera today. The sessions, I think, are just starting again, so it's thinning out a little bit in here. But of course, what happens in these atriums, these conversations, is every bit as important as anything you learn in the actual sessions in a conference.
Yeah, and I mean, I hate networking is an awful word, but that is that's one of the valuable things about coming to a conference is the chats that you have. You know, we had breakfast with our friends at Written Word Media this morning. I'm seeing Podium this afternoon. I'm seeing Apple, some Amazonians. It's just loads of opportunities to make connections that could very well be useful to you further down the line as you get on with your career.
And also, so I was just thinking how different this is as an experience as an author today than it was 20 years ago when you're an author. And you may go to like the Hay Festival once a year if you're lucky, because most authors probably don't get invited to that. But who are your work colleagues, your friends? I mean, I can see there's Hannah Lynn and her husband Jake there, there's Cara Thorburn, there's Michael Webb here. I mean, people we've got to know over the years. Some people work with us, some people are authors. It's a really brilliant experience as an author to be in a big room with other people doing the same as you. And I think that's a really unique indie experience.
Absolutely, yeah. And one you can replicate in London next year. If you can't come to the States, then we do something very similar. June 25th and 26th.
Someone did say to me, your conference is the high bar in conference organisation.
Yeah, they did, yeah. The guys from Vellum. They were very, very kind of them.
And WWM said that as well.
Oh, yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, no, it's good fun. So tickets are available for that. Don't know that you're on there. SBS Live, probably.
Yes, selfpublishingformula.com/SBS Live.
Yeah, on early bird pricing for another month or two. So if you want to come along, I'm actually looking around, scouting the next couple of days for people I think might be interesting to come and talk to our readers. There goes Dan Woods. There are lots of people that we know. But no, have a great time next year in London. Sunny London by the Thames.
Yes, indeed. Okay, look, we have an interview, would you believe? And the interviewee is Mark Blaney. Mark Blaney runs Pigeonhole, which I didn't know much about before this interview, and I have to say, I think at the top end it's an expensive service. At the entry level it's actually a very reasonable service, but it is a way of interacting and getting a boost for your novel, getting feedback on your novel, getting some early visibility for it. So I'll let Mark explain how that system works, and then Mark and I have a quick chat at the end of the interview.
This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
So Mark Blaney, welcome to the Self-Publishing Show. Nice to have you here. We're going to talk a little bit about you as a writer and your business. We're going to talk about the Pigeonhole as a service, which we will introduce, I suspect, to most of our listeners. So why don't you start off with a bit about you?
Yeah, so I'm Mark Blaney. I also am known as Ian Park, Ian with two I's and Park with an E. My first tip for writing a successful crime thriller series that you want to sell to people on Amazon is try and do it under a name that people can spell, which was a mistake. So I'm a hybrid author. I've wrote business books going back, first one about 20 years ago now, and was published by How To Books. It's now part of Little Brown. So wrote 4 business books, I think it was at the stage. And then I turned my hand to writing fiction, which I self-published as Ian Park, with a reasonable degree of success. I have to say this very carefully, but I have been called a bit of a cult. So those were quite successful. And then I've self-published some more business books, and also then started to run a small publishing company, publishing other people's stuff. And through that, we started to use a service called The Pigeonhole to help promote the books that we were publishing. And then I found that The Pigeonhole was up for sale. So I liked it so much that I bought it.
It's like Victor Khayyam all those years ago.
Yeah, sort of. Sort of.
Although people should remember Victor Khayyam went bust after that, but you have not.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping not. I mean, my background, my business background, actually, is I'm an ex-insolvency guy.
Oh, well, you know, hopefully that means you know how to avoid it.
Well, yeah. I mean, my career has been in businesses that needed restructuring and rescuing, and some of them work and some of them don't. And when it doesn't, it's very painful. I can tell you.
Yeah, of course it is.
So, the first book that I wrote was actually a book on how to turn a business around. So you would hope I knew something about doing it.
Okay, well, look, the fiction stuff, you write sort of gritty crime, is that right? And as you say,
yes.
you describe it as a cult following. You have a hardcore of addicted readers.
Yes, and it's quite hardcore, I have to say. So the first fiction I wrote, I went and worked for a couple of years out in East Africa doing a business restructuring. So the first book I wrote was sort of really about therapy, I suppose, really, and it was a thriller based in East Africa. And then I've always been interested in bikes and biker culture. And I thought, well, I don't see anybody writing anything that takes the culture seriously. I mean, whatever you think about sort of the outlaw biker culture, and people have very firm views on it, it is something that the people in it take very seriously. But whenever you saw it in popular culture, it would be sort of Clint Eastwood, in Every Which Way But Loose. They're sort of all comedy villains. I thought, well, nobody's writing anything that takes it seriously. Why not? And I thought, well, why don't I do it? So I wrote a one-off thriller, which was really around, well, why would somebody get involved in that scene? What would it feel like, etc. And tried to treat it seriously. And I've had some quite positive feedback from people sort of more involved in the life than I am about it and the way that it came across. And that was it. I just did it as a one-off.
And what is your biker group sort of nefarious, sort of criminal biker group, or is it? Because you do get. The only reason I ask is because we were on US 1 on family holiday a couple of years ago, in a traffic jam in California, traffic jam for roadworks, and suddenly we're surrounded on all sides by this biker group, and they looked mildly threatening. I was sort of sitting there thinking, do I just press the lock button on the car just in case? Yeah. All tattoos and all the patches and all that stuff, and they had a problem with one of the bikes, and then one of them, to my horror, sort of leaned down and tapped the window on my wife's side, and I sort of leaned down. He goes, buddy, we're quite a big group, and when we pull off, would you mind just holding back and letting us all go, just so we don't cause any problems? I thought that's an entirely fair request. But then we got chatting to him, and he turned out to be a law enforcement biker group. So they're all cops or ex-cops, and they all love bikes, and they travel the country. And from a glance, they look fairly menacing, but actually we're this brilliant bunch of charitable guys. And I think that's probably quite a lot of bike groups in America, isn't it? Like that, rather than the, what was the TV series with the gang? I can't remember the name now. The
Sons of Anarchy.
Sons of Anarchy, which was a brilliant series. So you do get good biker groups.
Yeah, people are into bikes. We run across the whole range of types of people. And even then, when you get into the outlaw biker groups, there is a view among some people that this is just a sort of mafia on wheels type thing, and actually I don't think that's right. Certainly there are people within those groups who are involved in crime, and I think there's probably quite a low level of crime, but there are certainly some of those groups where people. All the guys have to have jobs. They have to work. There is no drug dealing. So it very much depends on the individual bit within a club, I think.
So outlaw is the term for a group that is not necessarily law-abiding, as the term expressed.
Well, actually, it's slightly more sophisticated than that. Rolling back, in America there is the AMA, the American Motorcycle Association, and going way back to the early days after World War II, there was a sort of riot or a bit of a hoo-ha at a place called Hollister, and the AMA famously came out and said, this is the 1% of motorcyclists. It's we're the 99%, and we're fine, and it's just these 1% of troublemakers, and the people who didn't really fancy being part of this, very respectable thing. So, well, I'm going to identify as outlaw because I'm not part of and I'm going to identify as 1% because I'm not part of the 99%. So it became a sort of badge and a term. And so outlaw doesn't necessarily mean outlaw in terms of the criminal side.
Non-conformity rather than carrying a gun and holding up a shop. Okay. And I do see on Wikipedia there's a list of outlaw motorcycle clubs, people tracking them. Okay. Anyway, we're getting bogged down in this, but it's fascinating stuff. We would like to learn this stuff. So
I wrote. It was about why would you get the reputation you referred to. Well, the book really was about why would you get involved in something that has that sort of reputation? And as I say, I wrote it as a one-off, and then about 6 months later, after I'd finished it, two of the characters met up in my head for a meeting, and they were just off. I was along for the ride, and that's where it then went.
Brilliant.
And I'm now. Then it turned into a trilogy, and I'm now 6 books into the trilogy.
Like Douglas Adams, a trilogy in 5 parts.
Yeah, well, Douglas Adams, I think only made 5, so I'm.
You're one up on his trilogy.
Exactly.
And do you write as a discovery writer, as they call him, the way that the characters took away, or having had that moment of clarity of these two characters, did you then plot out the books, or?
No, I've. If I do have a plot for a book, and when I start to write one, I've usually got a structure in mind. By the time you're halfway through it, the characters are generally taken over and they go where they want to go. They have their logic, and they don't end up where I think they were going to end up. Let's put it that way. So I really do feel like I'm just following these people I've created. But my other tip, I suppose, for writing a series is whatever you do, at the end of book 1, don't have a massacre and kill off most of your characters.
All right. That's another thing you did, as well as having an Ian with 2 eyes. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'd say it was only going to be a one-off. Yes. So it's sort of, let's wrap up a lot of these stories. And then when it then went on, it was, hang on a minute, we've finished. You have to invent a whole load of new people.
Yes. Okay, well, let's talk about the Pigeonhole, which is our sort of main topic really here. So this is a service that you came across when you were publishing other people. You run an indie press. So tell us about finding it and why you valued it.
It was, I actually can't remember how we tripped across it in the first place. It might have been a press mention of it, I think. But we're an indie press, small indie press called Bad Press. And we are publishing essentially generally debut authors, and it's difficult to get traction. And what we found with the Pigeonhole was it's a service. It was originally set up to be an online book club, and the idea was that they would publish book in serial form, and readers would subscribe and pay to read books in serial form. That was the original idea. And actually, that's where I came across it, because I was thinking the same thing and then found somebody had done it. So I thought, let's not go down that route. Anyway, so they set up to do that. And what they found was that people didn't really want to pay for that as a service as readers. but there's a group of people who are quite interested in reading in serial form. So they sort of pivoted the model on its head, and essentially what they then do is they go to publishers and say, would you like to put your book in front of 250 readers who will read it in serial form? So it gets released in daily staves that each are about 30 minutes worth of reading. So a typical book gets released over 10, 12, 15 days in chunks. And the way it works is that the readers can actually type comments as they go that appear in the margin of the book as they go. So you get readers starting to have conversations with each other, and the author is actually also involved, so they can answer questions from or make, if a reader makes a comment that says, "Oh, I don't fancy this character's chances much," the author can go, "Well, wait and see," type thing, and gets into a conversation. So what you find is over 10, 12, 15 days, the author is having a conversation with a group of readers as they get to the end of the book. And what that then leads to is, you've built up a body of potential fans, number one. Number two, for the author, it's generally quite affirming, because when you launch a book and you put it out, you're not necessarily getting a lot of interaction with people about it, whereas this way you do. And then the third thing is that because people have had that interaction with the author and the conversation, they're more likely to go and leave reviews. And actually we at the Pigeonhole in the background then go and follow up with the readers who finished the book and been involved in conversation, say, I see you haven't left a review yet. Would you like to leave a review? So a typical listing in the Pigeonhole, there's 42,000 readers registered. So typically we make 250 slots available for a book. So people subscribe. So you get 250 readers at the outset. What that translates through to on average is about, on average, it's about 52 reviews that are posted on Amazon or Goodreads for the book that is completed. And you also get quite a lot of social media coverage and page views, because to recruit the readers, we are putting out a lot on social media saying this book is available to read on the Pigeonhole. Do you want to come? So a book typically gets about 9,000 social media views as well. Wow. So for getting that first body of reviews on Amazon that gives you that credibility and social proof, that it's not just your mum and your best friend who've read it and said, "Oh, it's lovely." It's quite. We found it quite valuable,
and also the author's also getting feedback, right? Valuable feedback.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we've actually, one of the things we've then done is we've taken the functionality, and we've also added on another service, which is that we can offer a sort of managed beta reader service. So, and we do it at two levels. So there's a free one, which is you sign up to do this free beta reader. You can invite 15 people who can become your beta readers, and they will release it the same way, and they can comment, and you get to that discussion the same way. And there's also because you've got all those comments and the data, we can provide data about, if people stopped reading, where did they stop? Where were most, and you can produce graphs, how many people actually got through to the end, and if they didn't, where did they stop? Where did people comment? And we can produce some very nice graphs that actually tie people's level of comment and interaction to the plot points in your book. So we can provide quite a powerful tool for analyzing how your book performs with readers. And we do that, as I say, on a free basis for a sort of private walled garden, or we've got a paid one where you can invite up to 50 people, or we can try and recruit 50 people from amongst our readership to give you a bit of a bigger review base, if you like. But so there's a sort of use the service to improve your book and get it polished, and then you can move on to use the service to actually then launch and generate and get your reviews to get your social credibility on Amazon and Goodreads, etc.
So what is the fundamental difference between the first service where you're inviting in people, or you are your company is trying to find people, versus it being serialized and there being 250 slots? I'm confused as to what the difference is.
Okay, so the beta reader service, this is you putting the book up, going through the process of serialization and getting comments.
And it's not published at this stage.
It's not published at this stage. Well, not necessarily. I mean, you might have published it.
Okay.
But this is a process to try and improve it. So for those 15 or 50 readers, we aren't going to go and chase them for reviews.
Okay.
Because, I say, it may not be published. It may not be reviewable. If it is reviewable, those 50 people, some of them may leave reviews. But the purpose of the beta reader management service is about helping you to improve the flow of the book and iron out any rough bits. So if you've got a book and everybody's reading it along, and at the end of chapter 5, 50% of the people turn off, there's a problem at the end of chapter 5 that needs fixing. And I'd suggest you fix that before A, you launch, or B, you put it onto our review generating service. Because if you don't fix it, you're going to lose half of the people who are reading it at chapter 5.
Yeah. Chapter 5 is obviously where they killed the dog, which is what makes people stop reading books. Genres? I mean, is this all genres?
Yes, it is all genres. I mean, our core readership tends to be women 35 to 65. They tend to be keenest on plot-driven fiction. So, crime, psychological thrillers, do very well. Commercial type fiction, as you would expect, does really quite well.
Yeah.
But no, we are, in theory, we're open to almost all genres.
Yeah. And how do they choose? Your regular readers just sort of see a list of books that have come up. When they finish one, they just look down the list and see a bit of blurb about it.
They're getting our regular readers are getting emails and alerts as books are coming available.
Okay.
So we have quite a marketing campaign going out to our regular readers, and then at the same time we have a social media campaign that's going out more generally, saying, "Hello, we're the Pigeonhole. By the way, this week or coming up, we've got ABC by Joe Bloggs that's being serialized. If you'd like to read it, log on here and join."
Yeah.
And also, we then provide all that collateral to the author, so the author can go out to their social media network and say, "Oh, my book is being serialized on the Pigeonhole. If you'd like to read it for free, log on here and join." So it gives them something to put out to their readership, their contact base as well.
And another question is about KU. So does this count as publishing? So if your book's in Kindle Unlimited, you wouldn't be able to use this service?
That's a very interesting point. And I will be honest and say I don't actually know the answer to that. We certainly have no problem about it, and I'm not aware that we've ever had any of our authors have a problem with it. But it's probably something that they would need to check out. So it's not a problem that's raised its head yet.
There are a lot of people who listen to this podcast who know the terms very well, so they will no doubt comment on it. Because I know you can send to advanced readers. Obviously, that doesn't breach the. So it might fall under that, or some people might say it's got a problem. I don't know, but
I think as far as I'm aware, putting a book onto NetGalley isn't going to give you a problem, and effectively we are a curated version of NetGalley.
Yeah. Okay. But people do have to take their own advice on that, we should say.
Yeah.
When they get into trouble. Yeah. And how much do people pay for this service, Mark?
The core, as I say, the beta reader at the bottom end is free. The paid for beta reader is £250, but we then give you a voucher for if you want to then use the main service. The main service is £499. There is a slightly cheaper option if you want to just focus on the US. We have the bulk of our readership at the moment is in the UK.
Right.
We are trying to grow our readership in the US, but if somebody comes and books a service with us, we want to try and make sure we fill their slots. So for a worldwide listing, which it will mainly generate reviews on Amazon.co.uk in the UK. It's 250 slots. We have set up one specifically focused on the States and American readers, where we generally go out to 100 slots to make sure we can fill that to target getting reviews in the US. What we're looking to do is grow our American readership so that in due course we can offer 250 slots in the States or 250 slots to the focus worldwide, including the UK. But at the moment, we just want to make sure that if somebody books something for the States, we can fill it and get them the readers.
Yeah. And you can't presumably guarantee the number of views someone's going to get for the moment.
Absolutely not.
No.
No, because these are real reviews by real people. And it really depends on how they like the book and how, to a degree, how they get on with the author. And the range is actually quite huge. So I said our average is 52. My understanding, having started to look at some of the stats, is the worst book we ever got had 10 reviews.
Okay.
And the best book got 140.
Okay.
So you've got quite a spread.
Yeah.
But we can't guarantee anything. It's about, how the readers like the book. And we are very happy to have self-published books on the site. But what I would say is the core business around which the business has been grown so far is in publishing, is in promoting books by the very big publishers. So, we've got books by Alexander McCall Smith, Anne Cleves, Barbara Kingsolver, Linda LaPlante, Mark Billingham, etc. So we've got the books that are being published by the big publishers. And obviously our readership effectively expects all the books we put out to be of the same sort of standard. So we're very happy to publish put self-published authors on, but if you want to put something onto our site, we want it to be, good. It's because it's going to compete against the books from the big publishers.
Yeah.
And if it's not finished to the same standard, that's not going to help you as the author, and it's not going to help. Obviously, it doesn't help us as the site.
So it needs to be professionally edited, or if you do self-edit, you need to be a very, very competent self-editor. But ideally,
which is all the standard advice that that anybody who's going to be serious about self-publishing will have had from yourselves and from all the other sort of advisors is it has to have a professional cover, it has to be properly edited, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We are the same. We will be saying, we have to make sure that what we put out to our readers is of the appropriate quality of, writing, production, delivery, and all the rest of it. So we just have to make sure that, because we don't want to put out somebody's book and they get 10 reviews of which half of them are, it's not been proofread and it's full of spelling mistakes, because that doesn't do anybody any good.
No, it does not. And what is the lead time on this? How much, if somebody wanted to use your service tomorrow, how long do they have to wait for a slot?
I think at the moment we are filling slots in September and October.
Okay.
So,
and can you book in advance? Can you say, well, this manuscript's going to be ready in March next year? So,
Yes, yeah. I mean, when people have different lead times that they want to work to. Yes, we're very happy. So one of the questions when somebody books is, well, okay, when would you like it to go on? And if somebody came in and said, I'd like to book and I'd like to, have my book come out in March or January next year, that's fine.
Yeah.
We just schedule it ahead.
Well, at my rate, my book's going to be ready in March 2036. So if you could just... I will actually get back to writing my fourth book soon. All right, sounds really good. I tell you what, just if you don't mind, just recap those 3 levels of service, because they do vary quite a lot from free to $4.99, just so people understand.
So we and in fact there's a 4th level. So we have got a free beta reader management service that is free. You can then, as the author, invite up to 15 people. And you have the functionality where they can read, you can get the stats, you can see how they interact with the book. So that's free. Step up from that is we have a paid for beta reader management service, which costs £250, but you get a voucher towards a full listing later on. With that, either you can recruit in up to 50 readers, or we can also try and recruit 50 readers from our reader base. So it gets you a bigger population looking at your book, and therefore probably better information back.
So one quick question on that. Is the voucher worth 250?
No.
Oh.
No. The voucher's worth, I think we've set it at £100.
Okay, so you get a decent chunk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the next stage up is, right, I actually want to boost the number of reviews I've got for my book, or I'm launching and I want to get a set of reviews on Amazon, etc. And there we have our review service, where in the UK / rest of the world, you'll get 250 reader slots available. The US, it's a slightly smaller one to make sure we can fill it, which is 100. And for the UK, rest of the world, that's £499. For the American one, it's slightly cheaper. I think we've got it at £350.
Okay.
And we also then have an enhanced version of both of those, where in addition to the standard promotion, serialization and promotion and chasing for reviews, we also add on things like a sort of a front page takeover of the Pigeonhole, a reading event at the end where the author can do a reading and have a live interaction with the audience, and some additional analytics and tonal analytics of the comments, etc., just to try and help. So there's a bells and whistles version as well, if you like.
Yeah. Great. And as you say, it's used by some pretty big authors, the excellent Mark Billingham, and Samantha King, Rachel Ward. So, so you've taken over the company. Has it changed much in your ownership?
Well, we're going wider, I think, is the answer to that. I mean, hence this conversation, for example. So the business really, up until my getting involved, was very much focused on relationships with the big publishing houses.
Yeah.
So effectively, if you go onto the site now, there is a tab at the top which says promote your book, which takes you to these services. That's new, because up until my getting involved, it was all done on a relationship basis between the business and the big publishers. And what I'm keen to do is make it more widely available to the independent publishing community and the self-publishing community, to make it easier to understand what it is and how it can help, to add on these additional services like the beta reader management service. And because I think it's such a useful service, it seems a pity to have keep it so, so tight, as it were. So the plan is to make what it does more visible, create these additional services such as the free beta reader management, and make it more open and accessible to indie and self-published authors.
Mm. Well, it's a tempting investment at the beginning of a book's launch to get those first reviews are difficult. It's almost chicken and egg situation. A lot of readers will look for reviews before they buy a book, but without readers, you can't get reviews. So there is it's a pain point for authors.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm getting people to review is like pulling teeth.
Mm. It's a low percentage conversion. Even if you beg your reader, your mailing list, it's a low percentage conversion.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, the stats for giveaways and numbers of if you give books away, you can do if you do a book pub and give books away, you can be giving thousands of copies away and be getting relatively small numbers of reviews.
Yeah,
because there's if you're simply giving books away, there's not that much engagement with the reader.
Yeah,
the good thing, I mean, the key, I think, to the Pigeonhole and why it works is this reader engagement, is this fact that you've got a community of readers, and the readers know each other. So from a publishing point of view, we put a book on from one of our authors, which was a sort of bit of a madcap fantasy thriller, comic fantasy thriller, about a very heavy, hard-drinking, hard-smoking, gun-toting monkey, basically,
right?
Which had lots of swearing in it, and we put that on, And one of the comments from somebody when they started reading the first chapter is, "Oh dear, there's a lot of swearing." At which point, other people from the group, other readers, were then commenting, "Well, you never like swearing, so why did you sign up to read this in the first place?" So there's a real community.
Yeah, doing some work on your behalf, really.
Yeah, and it really it gets that engagement going. So, as I say, that's why it does then turn to generate reviews, as opposed to, I'm going to bang something out, make it free, and just hope, spray and pray type thing.
And how can people become readers?
They sign up. It's free.
Yeah.
So if you go onto the Pigeonhole, you'll see that there are books being listed. You can just sign up to join. As I say, when we're listing a book, we will send out stuff on our social media feeds, and that will have a click to say, I'd like to subscribe to read that, and that will include a joining link. And as I say, it's completely free to join and get books delivered to you, and join in the conversation.
Brilliant. Okay, well, Mark, Ian, it's been illuminating. Thank you for cluing us in on that. Sounds like a valuable series, and I suspect you'll probably get some readers from this as well, because I think most authors are avid readers and probably like the idea of training. They can always train yourself to become a dev editor, but if you do enough of these books and get the gist of feeding back.
Yeah. No, it's a nice community. It's please do join and enjoy the books. It's a different way of reading because it's so communal.
This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
There you go. That's Mark Blaney talking about Pigeonhole. So we've got some sessions that we're doing. I'm going to be talking about TikTok with Cecilia Mecca tomorrow. We are making an announcement in a couple of hours about Fuse Publishing. So I suppose we can talk about it.
Not today. I think we've already gone on a little bit today. We'll have a separate podcast on that in maybe the next week or two.
Okay, but it's out there, so you can look up what that announcement is if you want to find out. There's Hannah. Okay, look, that's it for now. People are sloping back off to their meeting rooms. There's like 6 tracks going on at any one time in this conference. It's slightly insane. We'll go and find, I think there's someone doing a session on how to start, Dakota Clout is doing a session on how to start a publishing company, which as we're doing that could be useful.
Could be, yeah. One for us to have a little look and see what we've got to say. Okay. Check it out.
Indeed. All right, that's it. All that remains for me to say is a goodbye from him.
And a goodbye from me.
Goodbye.
Get show notes, the podcast archive, and free resources to boost your writing career at selfpublishingshow.com. Join our thriving Facebook group at selfpublishingshow.com/Facebook. Support the show at patreon.com/selfpublishingshow. And join us next week for more help and inspiration so that you can make your mark as a successful indie author. Publishing is changing, so get your words into the world and join the revolution with the Self-Publishing Show.